I'm delighted to welcome again today to our inaugural Talking Locally session, Sean Anstee, the Chief Operating Officer of the brand new Devon and Torbay Combined Authority. So Sean's had a really fascinating career, which he'll tell us about, from being one of the youngest councillors in the country to now helping shape the future of a brand new regional authority. So he's jumped from the member side to the officer side, which is an unusual journey. It's one that spans both political and executive sides of local government and gives them a really rounded perspective, we hope, on what it takes to drive real change in communities. So today we're going to explore a little bit about the journey he's been on, what he's picked up, what surprised him, what he thinks it feels like and has helped him in building that combined authority with his colleagues from the ground up. And hopefully we'll hear some stories that remind us of why this work really matters to our constituents and our residents across the different communities of the UK. So Sean, let's kick off. Welcome to Officio. So first question is, you started out as a councillor at quite a young age. What made you do that?
Well, I mean, if you take a view that that politics can make a difference and local politics can make a difference, then that's what I wanted to do. So I was a very strange sort of 16-year-old that, you know, had sort of grown up in Hartington in Greater Manchester and wanted to sort of make my local community better. I was actually quite frustrated with local government because, you know, you sort of sometimes indecision is no decision. The ability to get something done needs a decision. And I, you know, for whatever reason, felt like I wanted to do something about that. And yeah, at 20 was elected to Trafford Council. Had a great 13 years in Trafford. You know, did some really interesting things actually: devolution to Greater Manchester, the redevelopment of the Lancashire County Cricket Club, regeneration of Altrincham. So you can point to specific things that happened as a result of being involved in local politics, and you can't really stand on the sidelines if you're not prepared to get involved and muck in, really. So that's what
let's hope that other young people hear this and try and mimic that journey. So looking back, what was the biggest surprise to you about what local government entailed? I mean, because you would have been elected under the committee system, right? Pre-cabinet government.
No.
No.
So still there. But I think the biggest surprise was just the variety of things that local government does. I mean, it's something like 600 odd services that are provided by councils, most of which people don't see. So you might see the parks, you might see the bins, you might see, you know, roads being resurfaced, but you don't necessarily see social care or whatever else unless you've got somebody going through it. So I think the surprise was just that, you know, the connection that councils can have to their communities and the variety of things that they're involved in. And it's important that people understand that, and that, you know, that people support their local authority to make decisions that are good for their communities, because it can have a massive impact on, you know, economic prosperity, well-being, how people get about. All of these things that are the responsibility of people that, you know, sometimes seem quite distant, but they're not. You know, they're people who are getting involved for the right reasons.
And it can be such an immediate. One thing I remember from my time in Hillingdon is it can be such an immediate change. You can change a policy at a committee meeting on a Thursday, and by Monday, people's lives have changed. You know, the frequency of libraries, the frequency of bins. It's
really exciting.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. I mean, but I think people look to Westminster to be the people that run the country. Of course, they do in certain ways, but actually, the stuff that impacts on your day-to-day life is right on your doorstep. Yeah, exactly. And you have, as you've demonstrated, the ability to be, you know, part of that, which is really exciting. So you move from a councillor, from a member, to an officer. How does it feel to get picked on?
It's well, so I have an appreciation of members and the role that they play, clearly, because I've been one. You know, I mean, even when I was a member, though, I always sort of took a view that members have a clear role, which is around decision making. Officers have a clear role, which is around creating options for members to take, to sort of think about different ways of providing services, you know, tackling some of the challenges that local authorities face. So, you know, I think you know, most councils work effectively when members and officers work together. So, you know, this is constant debate about, are you member-led or officer-led? You know, you really should be jointly led. And if people understand their roles and responsibilities, then, you know, I think having an appreciation of that on both sides is one of the things that I can bring in my new role now.
So how often since you've been a COO of an authority has your kind of member councillor instincts kicked in and you've had to kind of rein yourself back a bit, remembering your new role?
You know, so, you know, now in a politically restricted post, you know, I've got to sort of think about, you know, my job now is to advise members. You know, I mean, I've been a member before who's been advised. So I think, you know, what I try to do with that is to create options and choices for members to take, and to do that in a way that is considered, data informed, and so on. So I think I sort of think about when I was a councillor and council leader, you know, what would I want my officers to be doing, and can I do the same thing for members in Devon and Torbay today?
That's great. So you kind of get to mimic and copy the best that you've seen it when you were being advised, and take the best lessons that you've learned from that. So that's kind of a really good insight, I think. Hopefully your members will say the same. So, most exciting part of your journey. So Devon and Torbay is a brand new authority. There are models that it's replicating, i.e. for the combined authority, so transport and education, etc., aspects of adult education, and that kind of holistic view of the area. What's been the most exciting thing you've done so far on that journey?
Well, I mean, so the exciting thing is, if you think about sort of the history of combined authorities, they generally are sort of urban constructs in big metropolitan areas, Manchester, Newcastle, Leeds, and so on. And so to be able to try and do that in a rural conurbation like Devon and Torbay, to apply it to some of those challenges that rural and coastal communities face, is fascinating. So, we have responsibility for transport, adult skills, economic development and inward investment, strategic housing, and welfare to work schemes. So bringing all of that together, I think, is a really exciting opportunity, and to almost be a trailblazer for rural devolution is, hugely exciting.
And on the flip side, what's the thing that surprised you, I suppose, for the journey you've been on, when you've come to the table and thought, wow, really?
I think probably just the, there is, even in a devolved environment, there's still a reliance on central government departments to provide a lot of the programs and funding that we're responsible for. So, what I've tried to do in Devon and Torbay with members is to think about, well, we need to mobilise the authority, we need to create a policy and performance framework, and then we need to get to delivery as quickly as possible. So, because as more and more combined authorities are created, there will be issues of differentiation and distinguishability. So, we need to be able to show that we're competent, that we're trusted, that we're building relationships, and that we're operating in a really effective way, so that we can take devolved powers and make them have the impact that we want to see locally.
Yeah, because you're carrying out government-led programs, but you're doing it at the behest of the people you serve. So it's that kind of, you're in the middle of that. You're the conduit to make it happen.
Well, yeah, and sort of fiscal devolution is the next step in the thing, and there's still some more work to do on that. But that's only going to happen if we can demonstrate that the work of the combined authority is being delivered effectively and competently, and that's what we're focused on.
That's exciting. That's really exciting. So, within that journey, you've given us your highs and your lows, your unexpected bits. Have you ever sort of sat in a room and thought, oh, what have I done? Or why am I here? Ever?
No, I don't think. I mean, for me personally, this is really exciting to sort of get involved in. Moving from that sort of member to officer type perspective, I think is an opportunity that very few members have. And so, and to be able to create an authority from the start, when I sort of started in February, it was there was no logo, there was no bank account, there was no constitution. So you put in place all of those sort of foundation requirements for an authority to perform, then you create the policy framework, and then you get on to delivery. So to do that in a really structured way is massively exciting.
That's cool. So bear in mind, you built a team up and you had to get that shared sense of culture. How do you keep people on the team inspired when you're building something which hasn't got immediate results? It's really about that foundation work.
But immediate, so you're right. There is a balance between trying to demonstrate impact early versus some of these things. Often people compare combined authorities to Greater Manchester, so whereas but Greater Manchester collaborated for 20 odd years. So some of the results you see in Greater Manchester are as a result of decades-long collaboration. And what new combined authorities are trying to do is to create that in 1, 2, 3 years, and condense the period of time that's happened. So, I think there's, from a Devon and Torbay perspective, to be able to show that you can tackle some of those really important challenges around economic development, growth, housing, transport, and to do it in a considered and informed way. You get people to buy into that, and then I think we're, as I said, we're focused on, can you do a few things well? Because if you do that, then I think that helps endear sort of people to the new authority, to understand why it's here, what impact it's going to have, and that's what we're working towards.
So hopefully will be really good lessons learned for other regions, which is exciting. It's this exciting part of the pathway that you're doing. So in terms of building up the authority, starting from scratch, getting the culture right, laying those foundations. What do you think have been critical requirements to helping establish it? Are there any specific gaps in experience or capability that you've had to fill to keep that pace going forward as fast as you'd like it?
So I would say that, by month 8, which is November, will be 8 months old. We will have completed mobilisation. We will have put in place our policy framework, so corporate plan. We will have adopted the local growth plan, local transport plan, housing plan, and skills plan. And in some respects, they're not the things that excite people, but they are the things that create the foundation from which you can then go and deliver. And so the absence of them, I think, is notable. So within 8 months to sort of stand up an authority as quickly as we have, I think has been a really interesting professional challenge, but it's also something that I think will serve as well as we move into delivery. We've launched the Connect to Work programme, which is 1,900 people a year into employment across Devon, Plymouth, and Torbay, actually. So, there's some things that we're thinking about just to set us up so that we can get into that delivery point. And you've just got to keep focused on what we're here to do, why we're here to do it, and how we're going to do it. And to get people, it's really important, the relationship that we have with Devon County Council, with Torbay Council, with the districts, because the combined authority shouldn't be this new imposition on top of everybody. It should be in and of the authorities which it's designed to represent, and that's the sort of pragmatic approach that we've taken to trying to get people to buy into what the combined authority is seeking to do.
Sounds fantastic. So, just as we wind up, what's the best piece of advice you've ever had in your career, either from the councillor side or the officer side?
I think I don't know. I've had lots of advice over the time. I mean, the one that I sort of refer to the most is "you can if you think you can." So there are going to be things that are challenging. We're thinking at the moment about how you sort of create a new transport authority for Devon and Torbay. It's complex, ambiguous stuff, but you've got to have a determination to be able to want that to happen, and that's I suppose that's what I keep on trying to do.
And giving that back, then, so that's one you use. What would be your advice to someone who's thinking about starting a local government, either an officer or maybe standing for election, and who dreams of making the same sort of differences that you've made? What would you give them advice on?
I mean, just go for it, really. I think, as we've talked about, the world of local government is fascinating. It spans a wide range of services, and the ability to be able to really get stuck in, whether it's as a politician or whether it's as an officer, the opportunities in many respects are endless, and give it a go.
I think that's a great strapline for a council recruitment campaign. The opportunities are endless, because they really are. That 600 plus services from cradle to grave that councils offer is mammoth, really. No other organisation like it, probably, apart from the NHS, perhaps, if you looked at different types of care. So thank you. That's been a really great conversation. Thank you for coming into town. And I think we've covered a lot from your early days as councillor. I didn't know you were quite so young when you stood for council, so that's quite impressive. And then the challenges of setting up all around those foundations and laying that strong bed to build on for the future, so you can demonstrate what you've been doing as a new combined authority. And I think the experience you've got has been really, really key in driving that forward. So thank you for sharing it with us. So we'll be watching you in Devon and Torbay combined authority, and we'll hope to, perhaps if we're all still sat here in 5 years' time, we'll have you back and you can tell us about the list of achievements that you've got against your plan. Thank you for joining us on today's first session. There's many more hopefully to follow. And thank you for coming down to see us. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat. Thank you
Very much.